This podcast is not a substitute for a relationship with a mental health professional. Hey, family. Hey, guys. We are back again for another episode of the Mental Health is a Lifestyle podcast by and with your girl, Andrea Wise-Brown. I am so excited to be here again this week. I say that every week, and it is true. I am excited to do this thing here where I can speak. Hopefully, this is life into you, but I can just give you some nuggets that will increase your quality of life. That is the intention here, is to increase your quality of life, family. And so today, what we are going to talk about is triggers. Just being triggered, especially around the holidays with your who? Family. So today, you know what? We'll just call it family triggers. Family triggers, being triggered by your family, but still having to show up and go and see them during this holiday season. So now let's get into it. Wait, hold on. Before we get into it, we need to take care of business. Listen, if this is your first time listening or watching on YouTube, please click that little bell, that subscribe button, because I want you to know, and I'm hoping you want to know too, when a new episode comes up. Not only do I want you to subscribe to the channel, but I also want you to share every episode and then comment. Put a comment down. Put a comment down. If you're listening on a podcast, you can share and comment. And if you're watching on YouTube and listening, you can share and comment because I want to know what you're thinking. Okay? Don't leave your girl over here by yourself so that I'm thinking that I'm over here sitting here talking to myself. I'm just sitting here thinking that might be a trigger of mine. Okay, here we go. Y'all know I like to do my work too. That might even be a trigger for me to be sitting around talking to myself and nobody's listening. Ooh, I don't know. So here we go. Let's dive. Don't dive. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into triggers, family triggers. Okay, so a trigger. What is a trigger? So a trigger is stimulus that elicits a reaction. Stimulus, some type of stimulus that elicits a reaction. That's what a trigger is simply, right? So now when we think about psychological triggers, I'm going to go a little bit further because I just want to get you and catch you here. So I'm going to say, and I've said this before, that we are all traumatized. I haven't met a person yet. Y'all know I am a practicing psychotherapist. I have not met a person yet who is walking on this earth who is perfect and who's had a perfect childhood where they've gotten every single thing that they've needed. Even if they've had a pretty cushy childhood, there's always some misses. Always with everyone. I have not met one person who hasn't experienced trauma. So if the trauma had never occurred, you would just be thinking the way God would have you think, just pure and full self-esteem and just living in the knowing, that you would just love and you weren't afraid or scared of anything. You didn't need to be defensive about anything. You had everything that you need. All of those things. That would be a brain that was never traumatized. I mean, which does not happen. Okay. You get some kind of trauma during childhood. And if it's not from your parents, which I'm going to say, usually it is, but if it's not from your parents, then it could be from other caretakers or other people who were in your life during your developmental stages. Okay. But you can be traumatized even in adulthood. You can be traumatized during adolescence. But usually the trauma, and this is my specialty, is family of origin trauma the trauma usually happens during childhood, during those developmental stages, which kind of makes that switch in your brain that makes you see the world in a certain way. And sometimes the way that you see the world can be maladaptive or not the healthiest. Okay. And that's what we're talking about. And as a therapist, this is what I try to help people heal. It's to heal their trauma. But before we can heal it, we have to face it. So you got to face it. Then we do some work and we heal it. Then you commit to being consistent with doing that. And then I teach you some tricks so that you stay healthy. I teach you some tricks, so that when you do hit a bump in the road and you may fall back into that trauma brain, you have something in your knapsack. That's what I give you, a little knapsack or a little fanny pack of tricks so that you can go in there and pull it out. You can always take an opportunity when you hit a bump in the road to learn. That's what I say. You can take an opportunity to either regress, which is go backwards. You can take that opportunity, do nothing with it, and just stand still and make it everybody else's problem. Or you can take an opportunity when you hit a bump in the road to grow and to learn something, okay? And to use the skills taught. So today, the skill that I'm teaching, how to deal with family triggers during the holiday season. Because now it's time to go back around family. Well, we have Thanksgiving coming up. Yep, it's coming up. Then after that, we have Christmas coming up. And then, well, we have New Year's Eve coming up. This is the holiday season right here. We're in a stretch. Okay. So I'm going to give you something to put in your little fanny pack so that when you're around your family and you get triggered by a stimulus, got me? It's a cause. I want to help you with the effect so you know what to do to keep yourself grounded, to keep yourself happy, to continue to be pleasant. You understand? To stay on your path of growth. I'm going to give you some tools here today. Okay. So, family triggers. So, I'll give you some example of family triggers. Examples of family triggers, things that you may feel, okay, from your trauma as a child. So, some of you may have felt alone. Some of you may have felt that you were being controlled. Some of you may have felt that you were made to feel small. Some of you may have felt that you were dismissed a lot, that you felt dismissed. Maybe some of you have felt used. Okay, so these are feelings that you felt during childhood, and a lot of times it's unbeknownst to your caregivers, to your parents. They didn't know that they were doing this, or whomever your first teachers were, right? Those nurturers, whether it was your grandma, whether it was your auntie, whether it was you was raised by nuns or preacher, whomever. There doesn't have to be ill intent in order for you to experience the trauma. Okay. Intention versus impact. So sometimes, our parents intend to do the best that they know how to do. Most times they intend to do the best that they know how to do. Most times, what our parents do is do the best that they know how to do at that time. And although they do the best that they know how to do, that does not save their children from being traumatized by their doings, by their behavior. It may be unbeknownst to them. I don't know many parents who want to hurt their children, many people who decide to take care of children who actually set out to hurt them. I don't know many of those. I have experienced some when I used to work for CPS, but the majority of parents or caretakers really want to give and support their children. But sometimes they just don't know the best way to do so, and they may act out where you become traumatized. You may have felt alone. You may have felt dismissed. You may have felt that maybe they made you feel small. You may have felt used or abused. It's true. So when you've had those feelings, okay, then you've been traumatized. There's some trauma and you may carry that. And that's the great part about therapy, because you can come into therapy and we can work through those things. Because when you start to learn that the trauma was unintentional, they didn't intend to hurt you, and you can kind of put yourself in their shoes at that time, maybe at their age at that time, maybe in, whatever it was that they were going through. And that's called empathize. We've talked about that. then you can kind of let some of that pressure out of your balloon, that frustration or anger or hurt, because then you understand that the trauma was unintended. And especially when you can go back and address the person who traumatized you and they're open to apologizing and to changing their behavior. So that can be healing. However, I don't know that all that's going to happen by this Thanksgiving, this Christmas, or this New Year. So let me just give you this. Let me give you these four things that I want you to do when you're around your family and you are feeling triggered. Because I don't want you to get off your path of self growth and actualizing into becoming your best self. You got me? Okay. I have you. When you get triggered, you do not have to react. Because remember, you were on your journey, this journey to making mental health a lifestyle. You were on your journey to self actualization. You were on your journey, honey, to becoming your best self. So you don't have to react the way you used to when you were a child. Don't let that trigger make you regress and go backwards, because psychologically that's what happens when we're triggered. When we go back to those family dynamics that we've experienced during childhood, as an adult, I need you to hear me. What your brain wants to do immediately is it takes you right back, and you literally will start to feel like that little boy or that little girl again who felt powerless. And you felt powerless because, I mean, you should have, right? Because your parents were your caretakers. They were the ones who were supposed to give you what you needed. And so if they didn't give it to you, how else were you going to get it? So you didn't have much power. You got me? So you were in a place where you felt powerless. Yeah, and you were dependent. You understand? But now you're an adult. You hear me? Now you are an adult and you can choose to do something differently. So let me give you these four steps. Okay. So the first step is going to be acceptance. Acceptance. You know, that is the most powerful word there is acceptance. Because once you can accept whatever situation that you are in, accept it as what it is, then you can get the power to decide and choose what you want to do to get out of it. Whatever you want to do or what needs to happen to put you in a better situation. But without acceptance, you cannot move forward. It keeps you stuck. So, acceptance during the holiday season when I'm going to visit my family is I am not going to hopefully think that my aunt changed. Hopefully think my mother changed all of a sudden, that she's not going to say those little slide remarks, that my father changed, he's not going to kind of hit me with a little jug or a little triangulation or, give me a little critique. Like, I'm not even going to fool myself into thinking that these people are not these people. Why am I going to fool myself into thinking I'm going to walk up in here and these people are going to be something different than what I've known them to be? No. Okay. I love them and I'm going here for a reason. It must be to connect with them. I'd be thinking about my intention, about love, connecting with their hearts, and I'm going to accept them as they are. I'm not expecting them to be anything different as they are. No, I'm not. I'm just not. I'm not holding out hope that they're going to be different than anything that they are. So I'm going to accept who they are. And then I'm going to think about my intention for going, which is to share my heart and to love and connect and have a good time and just show up. I already know who's going to say what and say this and say that and sit. I've accepted it. I'm going. Certain amount of time I'm going to spend there, but I have accepted who I'm going to see, and I'm going to see my family. Acceptance. Number two, once you're in that house, you've accepted, okay, this is my mama, this is my uncle, this is my auntie, and they go to say something real sly. Let's say they do the whole criticism thing when you putting that food on that plate and they looking at your hips or they looking at your stomach. You know what I'm saying? maybe looking at your necks. I don't know what they're looking at, but they're looking at something. They saying, do you really think you should put all that on your plate? So before you respond, because you know your defense mechanism, remember that little child in you, because now you're grown, sends you back into regression, and now you want to fight as a child. But you ain't gonna do that, y'all. You know what you're gonna do, family? You're gonna pause. You are going to pause. There is power in the pause. Okay? When I just react, when I feel like I have been attacked in some way, when I react, I'm going to lash out. And the long term outcome of that, long term effects may not be good, may not be healthy. So, instead of me being impulsive and acting out and lashing out, what I want to do is I want to pause. I want to sit still and pause in this moment. Once I pause, I take a pause. Now, what it does is it gives my brain, my frontal lobe, a chance to kick in. It gives my frontal lobe a chance to start warming up and working and moving. Because, see, this is the thing. Usually, when we move out of impulse, I say my rule is 95% of the time when we move out of impulse, we make the wrong decision. 95% of the time when we move out of impulse. So, when you think about impulse is fueled by our primal brain. It's fueled by the brain, not the full brain. You know, your frontal lobe isn't included in your primal brain. And your frontal lobe is where your logic is. It's where your reasoning is. It's where your decision making is. That is where you have a higher level of functioning. That's in your frontal lobe. Okay. And it takes a minute to kick in. But your first brain that kicks in is your primal brain. With your primal brain, your response is either fight, flight, or freeze. That's an impulsive state. That's impulsive response. Now, if I am having a conversation with adults, or if I'm wanting to create change, then should I really be acting out of my primal brain? No. Fight, flight, or respond or freeze. No, I need to wait because I want to be my best self. Okay. When I'm handling a situation with adults, even with children, when I'm handling situation as an adult, then I need, because let me tell y'all something. The brain is not fully developed until age 26. So that it takes that brain some time. So I want all, honey, of my brain, the goodness of my brain, my decision making kicking in when I make decisions, when I use my voice. You understand? When I speak for myself. I don't want to speak out of my primal brain, and I'm hoping that you don't want to too. The 5% of the time that you'll win when you use that primal brain, when you move out of impulse, is if you on a train track and a train is coming down the track. Now, if a train is coming down the track and you on a track, okay, you on the train track and a train is coming down the track, you don't have time to wait for your frontal lobe to kick in and start working logic. So you ain't got time for that. So you need your primal brain. You got me? You either gonna fight, flight, or freeze. And I'm hoping you're going to flight. I'm hoping you're going to run because that's where you need your impulse. But when you are trying to speak for yourself or create change in a situation, you need your logic, you need your reasoning. So you're going to pause. Okay. So first, you've accepted who you're going to see. That's number one. Number two, when you feel like you've been criticized, when you feel like you've been triggered in some way, you've been gaslit, when you feel like you've experienced some triangulation, then you are going to pause. You're triggered, so you pause. You're going to be courageous. You're going to show courage. And showing courage in a courageous moment, in that moment, you pause. Now your frontal lobe is kicking in. You got reasoning, you got logic on your side. So now, because you've been offended, you may have been hurt. So in this moment, you are choosing to be courageous. Show your courage. So you can do that in two ways. You can either be quiet, because it's courage sometimes in closing your mouth and just looking with a side eye. Or you can use your voice. Okay, so let's go back to auntie or uncle saying something about the food on your plate and looking at your behind or your stomach or your arms or your necks, right? Because now your feelings are hurt because you was minding your business, having fun. Okay. So now you're responding with courage. So you can either do one or two things I told you. You can just not say nothing and just give them a look, and maybe even let your eyes do the talking with love. You can maybe look at their stomach or look at their necks or look at their behind. You can do that with love. Like, because I want to see what you see. I want to see what you see. I want to see. Okay, you can do that. Or what you can do is use your voice and say, that was hurtful. Or you can use your voice and ask a question. Was that a nice thing to say? Or you can use your voice and ask another question. What was your intention, Auntie, with saying that to me right now at this moment? And you can do that with a smile. You can use your voice. Because then what that does is that hopefully triggers them to think about their actions. Another example of being quiet could be, let's just say if your family members were talking about some topics such as politics, religion, money, how much money, who makes this money, and you don't even want to engage in that conversation because maybe you don't agree, maybe your politics are different, maybe your religious perspective is different, then you can disengage. That's another way that you can just be quiet, let them talk, and disengage. Go get you some pie. Go get you some sweet potato or some pumpkin pie. Okay? That's what you're going to do. So you're going to be courageous. You are going to be courageous. That is number 3. And number 4, family, is leave it there and move on. Leave it there at the house and move on. Because when you walked into the door on the holiday, you came in, you was fancy, you was feeling nice and light. You didn't have any baggage when you walked in unless you was bringing a dish. But once you put that dish on the table, you're going to leave it there. So then that means that when it's time to leave, after you've accepted who was there for who they are, you've paused, then you've chosen to be courageous and do one or two things, either use your voice or be quiet, then now you're going to leave it there and move on. Leave it right there. So you're going to leave back out the door just as light as you did when you walked in. You're going to leave it right there and move on. You will not leave with any resentment towards anybody because you go back to your intention. When you came here, your intention was with love, you used your heart. You wanted to connect and have fun and exchange love with your heart, honey. That was your intention. And when you leave there, you will have achieved that. You will have achieved it. Spin on out, twirl on up out of there. Give everybody kisses, give everybody love, and move on. It's done. Don't you carry anything out of there but love, peace, and love. All right, family. So that was the 4 steps that I want you to use. Put that in your little fanny pack when you are going to spend time with your family surrounding during this holiday season. Don't be afraid to go. Just put your little tricks in your fanny pack and use them. Because remember, you are on a path with me, family, of making mental health a lifestyle. You are on a path of expanding your quality of life. You are on a path of being happy, and you are committed to not allowing anybody to strip you of your happiness. You hear what I say? So you use these tips and these tricks that I give you. You got to work it, my love, in order for it to work. You got to work it, my love, in order for it to work. All right, family. I love you long time, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode of the Mental Health is a Lifestyle podcast with your girl, Andrea Wise-Brown. See you next time, family. I love you.